If we see a safety issue that we need addressed immediately, something systemic, we will not hesitate to issue an urgent safety recommendation.
Less than 3 weeks after the derailment of that toxic Norfolk Southern train in eastern Ohio, federal investigators released initial findings of what went wrong.
It was the combination of the hot axle and the plastic pellets which started the initial fire.
According to the report, rising wheel bearing temperatures were twice detected in a single rail car, but were not high enough to warrant a stop based on standards Norfolk Southern sets itself.
We have no evidence that the crew did anything wrong. The warning threshold is set by railroads, and again, it varies by railroad.
By the time the wheel bearing temperature was critical, the report says, surveillance video from a local residence showed what appeared to be a wheel bearing in the final stage of overheat failure moments before the derailment. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, it wasn't until the train crew received a critical audible alarm message did the crew stop the locomotive and, upon seeing smoke and fire, notified dispatch of a possible derailment.
During this deceleration, the wheel bearing failed.
In East Palestine Thursday, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg made his first trip to inspect the crash site. Buttigieg has been under fire by Republican lawmakers for not going to the crash site sooner.
Norfolk Southern and the other freight rail companies need to stop fighting us every time we try to do a regulation in order to hold them accountable and their other railroad companies accountable for their safety.
In the wake of the disaster, the NTSB also noting in its preliminary report that a wheel bearing in the affected wheel set, along with the vinyl chloride tank car top fittings, including the relief valves, have been removed for further inspection and testing. The final report not expected for a year or more.
So when we issue our final recommendations, I want Norfolk Southern to act if they get one. We need action on what would prevent that from happening again. That is our goal.
And one possible safety change in the wake of this derailment, those plastic triangular safety cards that you see on the sides of both trucks, trailers, and locomotives, which indicate that there are hazardous materials on board, those were made out of plastic and melted due to the high temperature of the fire on the train. The NTSB saying today that's one of the areas that they'll look into, potentially making changes. The issue there, it was difficult for first responders to tell what hazardous materials were on board the train cars after those triangular placards had melted.
And the EPA is still on the cleanup. Nate Reed from Washington for us tonight. Nate, thank you very much.